In a world where every confession becomes a headline, a few stars chose a different path: silence. No press tours, no grand announcements, just quiet truth. Lived honestly and without apology. This year, their stories didn't break the internet. They touched it, softly but deeply. If you think courage needs a microphone, think again. Stay with us, because sometimes the quietest voices echo the loudest. Some revelations arrive with fireworks. Others, they bloom quietly, like a perfectly timed rose opening under soft light. And if there's one man who knows how to make an entrance without making a scene, it's Jeff Leatham. For decades, Jeff wasn't just in Hollywood's inner circle, he was shaping it. The floral genius behind the scenes of A-list weddings, celebrity events, and jaw-dropping hotel displays, he's basically the architect of beauty itself. His Instagram looks like a glossy magazine had a love child with a Parisian art gallery. And for years, while stars stepped into the spotlight he designed, Jeff stayed right at the intersection of elegance and mystery. Out, proud, but rarely discussed. But 2025 hit different. This wasn't a year where Jeff shouted from the rooftops. He didn't need to. Instead, he layered his truth into everything he touched, like the subtle scent of fresh orchids filling a room before anyone even notices they're there. It started, fittingly, not with a press release, but with an interview about his creative process. Jeff was promoting a new Netflix docuseries that pulled back the velvet curtain on his floral empire. The interviewer, fully expecting a masterclass in centerpieces, asked how he keeps his work feeling authentic after decades at the top. Jeff smiled. That kind of smile people give right before they say something that lands deeper than expected. And said, "You can't create beauty if you're hiding parts of yourself. For me, living authentically has changed everything, in my work and in my life." Simple, elegant, and like a perfectly arranged bouquet, every word was intentional. The interviewer nodded politely and moved on to peonies versus tulips. But anyone who knows Jeff knew that line wasn't about flowers. From there, the signs started blooming everywhere. His Instagram, already a visual feast, began weaving in subtle personal touches. Intimate behind-the-scenes photos, throwback shots with close friends and chosen family. And then, during Pride Month, one picture made fans stop mid-scroll. Jeff, laughing at a small Pride celebration in New York, surrounded by friends wearing a simple t-shirt that read, "This is me." The caption, "After all these years of creating beauty for others, I'm finally celebrating my own." 500,000 likes later, entertainment outlets framed it as "Jeff Leatham shows Pride support." Classic. They missed the point entirely. This wasn't allyship. This was Jeff quietly affirming what those close to him already knew. His truth wasn't a secret. It was a part of his art all along. And that's what makes Jeff's 2025 so fascinating. Unlike many celebrities who come out with headlines, campaigns, or choreographed announcements, Jeff embodied something more nuanced. He lived his truth through the work that made him famous, letting authenticity seep through the cracks like sunlight through stained glass. His upcoming collaboration with several LGBTQ+ designers and a rumored memoir project only deepened that evolution. Insiders noticed, fans connected the dots, but Jeff? He never paused to explain. He didn't have to. In many ways, Jeff's quiet affirmation mirrors the way he approaches design. It's not about the loudest arrangement in the room, it's about the one you can't stop looking at, the one that makes you feel. His story isn't about coming out as if it's breaking news, it's about existing out loud in spaces he's helped make beautiful for everyone else. 2025 became the year Jeff shifted from being the man behind Hollywood's breathtaking moments to being one of its most quietly inspiring figures. He didn't change his brand. He didn't reinvent his image. He simply let the world see the man who'd been there all along. Confident, creative, and unapologetically himself. And honestly, that's the kind of coming out story that hits differently. Not with shock, with warmth, with quiet strength. Like walking into a room filled with flowers and realizing, maybe for the first time, that their beauty had been telling you the truth all along. Some stars are notable for their honesty. Others, they drop the news like an emotional punchline in the middle of a Tuesday night movie. And no one does it quite as quietly as Kit Connor. If you've seen Heartstopper, you know Kit as Nick Nelson, the charming football player with a heart that could melt a glacier. But in real life, Kit's story has become one of the most powerful real-life stories of the 20s. And what's crazy? It didn't happen on a red carpet, in GQ, or in a tearful chat with Oprah. It happened on Twitter. One sentence. No flashy announcement, no flashy photo shoot. Just Kit, his phone, and one moment that changed everything. Let's rewind. For years, Kit was one of Gen Z television's breakout stars. With his talent, quiet confidence, and, let's be honest, a jawline that was surprisingly good, he shot to international fame overnight. But that fame also came with intense online speculation, fans dissecting every interview, every glance, every Instagram like. Curiosity turned to pressure, quickly. And while many young stars might have backed off or staged a PR campaign, Kit did the opposite. He kept quiet, patient, calm. Then in October 2022, after months of relentless speculation, he tweeted, "I'm bi. Congrats on forcing an 18-year-old to come out." Boom. No emojis, no hashtags, just raw sincerity. It was both heartbreaking and inspiring. A glimpse of a young star owning his story in the most natural way possible. And by 2025, that quiet declaration had become the foundation for something bigger. Kit living openly, unapologetically, and completely on his own terms. That year, Kit's interviews started to sound different. Not performative, not articulated, just thoughtful. When asked about the impact of Heartstopper, he talked about the importance of representing the LGBTQ+ community, as if they were not just playing a role but living it. His fashion sense was bolder, his public appearances more comfortable, and his social media presence subtly shifted from glossy campaigns to an expression of individuality. He didn't reveal every detail, not at all, but he also seemed to stop hiding. Those in the industry have noticed. Kit's growing influence isn't just about his acting. It's about the role he's portraying to a generation coming to terms with their own identity. He doesn't do talk show confessions or magazine covers. Instead, he lets his life, his art, his voice, his presence quietly tell the story. And honestly, that's powerful. In a media landscape obsessed with viral announcements and rainbow-colored PR campaigns, Kit Connor's journey feels refreshingly human. He's not trying to control the narrative with a 10-step strategy. He is the story. A young man finding himself, facing the noise, and still choosing to be honest. It also underscores something important about coming out in the modern age. For some, it was a headline. For others, like Kit, it was a statement, a subtle shift, a decision to live honestly, even when the world wasn't quite ready for it. And for millions of young gay people watching, it meant more than any staged reveal. As 2025 unfolded, Kit became a symbol, not of perfection, but of quiet courage. He showed that your truth doesn't have to be shouted to be heard. Sometimes a heartfelt statement is enough to resonate for years. And this is important. In an age where celebrity revelations are often staged like movie trailers, Kit Connor reminded everyone that honesty, even whispered, is more powerful than any headline. Do you think that quiet, private moments like Kit's can have a bigger cultural impact than big, flashy announcements? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on this. When Justice first burst onto the screen in Baz Luhrmann's Netflix musical drama The Get Down, he brought an effortless mix of vulnerability and charisma that made him one of the most exciting young actors of his generation. Then came Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, Detective Pikachu, and a string of projects that pushed him into the global spotlight. By his early 20s, Justice wasn't just another talented newcomer. He was the Gen Z face Hollywood couldn't stop watching. But beneath the blockbuster premieres and red carpet appearances, something deeper was taking shape. While many young stars navigate fame through carefully controlled narratives, Justice chose a different path, one defined quiet honesty, not spectacle. And in 2025, that quietness became impossible to ignore. The pivotal moment wasn't a talk show. It wasn't a magazine cover. It was Instagram. In June 2020, during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, Justice posted a passionate message calling for intersectional justice. And in that same breath, casually, authentically, he came out as queer. He wrote not like someone making a big reveal, but like someone folding truth into activism. There was no flashy announcement. No PR strategy, just raw, personal conviction. "I guess I'll show some pride myself," he wrote, standing alongside then-partner Nicholas Ashe at a protest. The image was powerful, but what followed in the years after was even more telling. As his career evolved, Justice's public persona began to shift in subtle, meaningful ways. His roles leaned toward layered, introspective characters. His fashion grew bolder, more expressive, occasionally blurring gender norms with an ease that felt less like reinvention and more like revelation. Interviews throughout 2024 and 2025 revealed someone increasingly comfortable using his platform to speak about identity, not as a headline, but as lived experience. By early 2025, during a press interview about his recent projects, Justice was asked about authenticity in the entertainment industry. Instead of deflecting, he leaned in. "I think living truthfully is the only way to do this work long-term. If you're performing off-camera, eventually it catches up with you. I'm not performing anymore." The interviewer moved on, but fans noticed. So did industry insiders. Throughout that year, Justice's Instagram became less polished Hollywood promo and more a personal archive. Candid pride posts, behind-the-scenes moments at queer events, and literary quotes about love and self-discovery. His circle of collaborators expanded to include LGBTQ+ filmmakers and writers. Projects exploring fluid identity seemed to find him naturally. But media coverage? Minimal. Most outlets chalked it up to artistic growth, completely missing the personal significance unfolding right in front of them. One of the most overlooked moments came during a recent podcast appearance. When asked about love and relationships, Justice said, "I've learned to stop putting my feelings into boxes that make other people comfortable. Love, for me, doesn't follow a script." It wasn't a soundbite, it was a statement, delivered without theatrics, just steady, thoughtful clarity. What makes Justice Smith's quiet coming out so compelling is how seamlessly it's woven into the fabric of his artistry. He didn't pivot into queer identity as a media move. He lived it, and let the world catch up at its own pace. His journey represents a new kind of celebrity authenticity, one that doesn't rely on headlines, but on presence. In 2025, while the entertainment world obsessed over manufactured moments, Justice was modeling something radical in its simplicity. That telling your truth doesn't have to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes it can be as natural as breathing, as subtle as a caption, as lasting as a quiet sentence said at the right time. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you think quiet, personal revelations like Justice's have a deeper cultural impact than the traditional big announcement moments we see in Hollywood? For years, Joshua has fit the bill perfectly. charming, musical, and naturally charismatic. As Ricky Bowen in High School Musical, the series, he became an overnight teen idol, with millions of fans dissecting every lyric, every glance, and every social media post. But behind that carefully crafted image, Joshua's true self has been waiting to be revealed. And when it does come out, it's not via a glossy magazine cover or a red carpet announcement. It happens organically, without any conceivable script. In 2021, in a light-hearted interview, Joshua was asked about Harry Styles. He smiled and said, "He's charming. I think he's cool. This is my coming out video, I guess." At first, it sounded playful, almost tongue-in-cheek, but there was something very real behind it. A few weeks later, he followed up with an Instagram post. "All my life, people have told me about my sexuality. People have shamed me for things they knew nothing about. I choose love." No labels, no PR strategy, just quiet sincerity delivered in his own words. Over the next few years, Joshua's music became his most visible form of expression. His lyrics shifted to self-acceptance, vulnerability, and love, things that didn't fit into traditional boxes. By 2025, the shift was undeniable. In interviews promoting his new album, he spoke about authenticity with a calm confidence that comes from being open, not from portraying someone. When asked about love on a podcast earlier that year, he simply said, "I'm learning to love without limits, without fear, without definition." It wasn't a statement that caught the eye, but to those listening, it was clear. Joshua had quietly embraced his identity on his own terms. His social media reflected that change. Gone were the over-polished promotional videos. In their place were intimate acoustic clips, reflections on Pride Month, and glimpses of a young artist who no longer filtered himself to fit expectations. He performed at LGBTQ+ events, collaborated with queer creators, and carried himself with a sense of ease that was a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere when he first started his career at Disney. None of the moments were staged as moments. It was all Joshua, just Joshua. One of the most moving moments came during a summer 2025 music festival appearance. Before performing a soulful ballad, he looked out at the crowd and said softly, "This song is about learning to love yourself when the world keeps telling you who you should be." No declarations, no fireworks, just music and truth, shared in the language that came most naturally to him. What sets Joshua's journey apart is how unbelievably honest it feels. In an age where celebrity coming out is often elaborately staged in the media, he simply lets his truth live between his art and his words. His story reminds us that not every revelation needs to dominate the news cycle to be valuable. Sometimes it's the quiet moments, a line in an interview, a lyric sung on stage, that resonate the most. If you love stories like this, the real, the powerful, the quietly game-changing, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next profound moment the world almost missed. In the early 2010s, Colton wasn't just a rising star. He was everywhere. With his all-American good looks, piercing eyes, and a six-pack seemingly engineered in a lab, he became a staple of teen TV and glossy magazines. From Teen Wolf to Arrow, Colton embodied the perfect Hollywood heartthrob. Strong, charming, and seemingly untouchable. But behind that carefully crafted image was a truth he'd kept tucked away for years. One that would slowly, quietly, and powerfully change how people saw him. For much of his early career, Colton lived in the shadow of the industry's expectations. Being a young actor in the early 2010s meant fitting a narrow mold, especially if you were cast as the good-looking straight hero. So, like many before him, he played the part on and off screen. Interviews stayed surface level, appearances were meticulously controlled, and his personal life remained a mystery. Then in 2016, everything shifted. Not with a press conference, but with a single comment on Tumblr. A fan mentioned his secret gay past, and Colton responded simply, "Was it a secret?" That one sentence cracked the facade. Soon after, he officially came out in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, revealing that he had spent years hiding due to fear and pressure. His honesty wasn't loud. It was thoughtful, emotional, and deeply human. It wasn't the Hollywood spectacle people expected. It was a young man finally stepping out of a carefully constructed box. In the years that followed, Colton's career and personal life evolved on his own terms. He took a step back from some of the roles that defined his early fame and focused on rediscovering himself. By 2025, he wasn't the closeted teen idol or the nervous rising star anymore. He was a grown man living his truth, openly, but without fanfare. That year, subtle shifts in his public presence caught fans' attention. His Instagram featured more candid, personal glimpses, pride celebrations with friends, behind-the-scenes photos from LGBTQ+ charity events, and reflective captions about growth and identity. Interviews became more relaxed, more authentic. He wasn't dodging questions anymore. He was simply being himself. Perhaps the most telling moment came during a recent media discussion about representation. When asked about his journey, Colton said, "For a long time, I thought coming out had to be this big, scary thing. But living quietly, honestly, every day, that's what changed my life. No headlines, no viral moments, just a star who'd once been a symbol of Hollywood perfection choosing to live as himself, without apology." Colton's story resonates because it reflects a generational shift. Coming out doesn't always have to be loud to matter. Sometimes it's about quiet strength, about finally being comfortable enough to stop performing. And for someone who once defined perfect teen idol, that quiet authenticity hits differently. Which other stars do you think quietly came out in 2025 but didn't get the spotlight they deserved? If you love this story, drop their names in the comments below. And who knows? They might just make it into our next video. Jessup has long been the indie darling who turned quiet introspection into a powerful personal statement. For years, Connor was one of those rare actors who could disappear completely into his roles. From the post-apocalyptic drama Falling Skies to Netflix's supernatural hit Locke and Key, he carried an emotional intensity that felt far beyond his age. Critics praised his performances as layered and haunting, but off-screen, Connor stayed remarkably low profile. No messy headlines, no attention-grabbing stunts, just thoughtful artistry. But beneath that quiet exterior, a deeply personal journey was taking shape. Unlike many celebrities whose coming-out moments are orchestrated media events, Connor's was as personal and understated as they come. In June 2019, during Pride Month, he posted a heartfelt message on Instagram. "I knew I was gay when I was 13, but I hid it for years. I didn't want to be seen. I was ashamed." No exclusive interviews, no TV specials. Just a simple, honest reflection from a young man deciding to live his truth on his own terms. For many fans, it wasn't a surprise. It was a moment of quiet clarity. Over the years, Connor's career and identity began to intertwine in quiet, powerful ways. He avoided spectacle, choosing projects that explored identity, vulnerability, and self-discovery. He worked with queer filmmakers, supported LGBTQ+ festivals, and became a steady advocate for authentic storytelling. By 2025, Connor wasn't making big public statements. He didn't need to. His truth was woven into everything he did. His Instagram became a mix of artistic photos, candid moments, and reflections on identity and love. Instead of polished PR shots, fans saw the real Connor. Someone who'd grown into himself quietly, without losing his introspective edge. One of the most striking moments that year came during an intimate discussion at a major indie film festival. When asked how coming out had affected his craft, Connor responded with his signature quiet eloquence. "Coming out wasn't a career move. It was about finally being able to see myself clearly. And once that happened, my work started to reflect it naturally." No dramatic pause, no orchestrated headline, just a simple truth delivered in a room full of people who genuinely cared about the art more than the spectacle. What makes Connor's journey so compelling is how seamlessly his identity integrates with his work. He doesn't lead with it in interviews, yet it's present in every creative choice he makes. In an entertainment landscape that often rewards loud declarations, Connor reminds us that sometimes the most powerful revelations happen quietly, between the lines. His story speaks to a generation of queer artists who are choosing authenticity, not through press releases, but through the stories they tell, the roles they play, and the lives they lead day by day. It's less about spectacle, more about substance. And that's what makes it unforgettable. Do you think quiet, personal revelations like Connor's can be just as impactful as the big public announcements we usually see in Hollywood? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And while you're at it, tell us which country you're watching from. We love seeing this community connect from all around the world. Over the years, Keiynan has been best known for his role as Wally West on The Flash and his breakout performance in Love, Simon, the groundbreaking teen romance that brought gay love to the forefront of Hollywood. With his model-like good looks, dancer's physique, and infectious smile, he became a rising star who lit up the red carpet and charmed audiences. But beneath that magnetic energy was a young man quietly finding himself, under the gaze of millions. In 2017, long before stories of quiet coming out became common, Keiynan did something simple but revolutionary. He opened Instagram, typed a heartfelt confession, and hit post. No PR team, no exclusive deal, just his own words about choosing truth, loving without labels, and finding freedom in self-acceptance. It was raw, emotional, and utterly genuine, and fans responded with love. Over the next few years, Keийнan's journey took place not through press conferences, but through his art. His music, upbeat, alternative, imbued with self-love and queerness, became the foundation of his evolution. Songs like Kiss the Boy and Preach were more than catchy pop. They were declarations of joy, identity, and presence, wrapped in catchy melodies and dance moves. He didn't try to explain who he was, he simply lived his life, unabashedly. By 2025, Keiynan had become one of the most quietly influential queer voices in entertainment. While some stars came out through interviews or major events, Keiynan let his work, style, and presence speak for him. His social media became an artful mosaic, dance rehearsals bathed in golden light, poetic captions about love and growth, and photos with his chosen family. He didn't hide, he didn't shout, he simply lived, beautifully on his own terms. One of the most meaningful moments of that year wasn't on stage, but during a live Q&A with fans. When asked how he labels himself these days, Keiynan chuckled and said, "I don't really care about labels anymore. I just love. That's it." There were no headlines, no viral catchphrases, but for the tens of thousands watching live, it was a moment of quiet strength. A reminder that identity doesn't always have to fit neatly into clearly defined boxes. What makes Keийнan's journey compelling is how he lives self-acceptance, not as a media strategy, but as a daily practice. His openness is playful, fluid, and free from expectation. In an age of scripted revelations, Keiynan reminds us that authenticity doesn't need noise. He's a new kind of queer star who simply lives fully and lets the world catch up. If you've read this far into Keiynan's story, take a moment to reflect. How does his journey make you feel? Do you think the stars we've featured so far deserve more recognition for being so brave and authentic? Leave a comment, share your thoughts, and let us know where you're watching. This journey isn't just for celebrities. It's for all of us who get to see pieces of our own stories reflected back to us. When Heartstopper debuted on Netflix, it not only gave the world a fresh perspective on teenage love, but it also brought a cultural shift. At the heart of it all was Joe Locke, a soft-spoken, curly-haired boy from the Isle of Man who captured the hearts of audiences as the tender Charlie Spring. In a sea of celebrities with strong personalities, Joe stood out for the exact opposite reason: his calm, vulnerability, and unwavering honesty. For many young LGBTQ+ viewers, Joe didn't just play a character, he represented himself. His on-screen journey reflected the real-life experiences of countless young people around the world. And while his career skyrocketed seemingly overnight, Joe's personal journey was equally natural. Unlike celebrities who often craft their public image, Joe's approach to fame is almost allergic to fanfare. There are no sensational revelations, no staged moments, just a young man navigating his presence with sincerity and grace. In 2022, Joe publicly acknowledged his homosexuality, not through a massive media campaign, but through intimate interviews, honest conversations, and the way he presented himself to the community. In the years that followed, as Heartstopper became a global phenomenon, Joe quietly embraced his platform. He didn't change his image. He didn't perform in front of the camera. Instead, he used his voice to advocate for LGBTQ+ youth, speak out about mental health, and challenge the entertainment industry to make space for stories like his. Joe Locke has become one of the most inspiring young voices in entertainment in 2025. The most remarkable thing is that he hasn't changed. His social media remains refreshingly normal. Candid selfies, behind-the-scenes moments with co-stars, pride celebrations with friends. His interviews are thoughtful, sometimes shy, but always sincere. Even as he moves into theater and new film projects, Joe still carries the same unwavering energy that made people love him in the first place. That year, during a panel at a Pride youth event in London, Joe was asked how coming out had changed his life. He paused, then said, "I don't think it had to do with changing who I am. It had to do with being less afraid to show it." That simple quote sums up what makes Joe's journey so powerful. He didn't need a viral headline to make an impact. His authenticity was the headline. Unlike some stars whose revelations are elaborately staged by the media, Joe's story unfolded organically, like watching someone grow up in real time, but on a global stage. He's part of a new wave of gay celebrities who are defining coming out on their own terms, not as a statement, but as a way of life. And perhaps that's why Joe Locke's story is so deeply affecting. It's not the flashy gestures. It's the quiet courage of a young man who chose to be authentic in front of millions, allowing others to do the same. He represents hope, especially for young fans who see themselves in his vulnerability. We've explored 10 incredible journeys of stars who quietly came out in 2025, each story unique and powerful in its own way. Which of these stories inspired you the most? Who left you with a lesson or feeling that will stay with you long after this video is over? Leave your thoughts in the comments, share your feelings, and let's celebrate the power of authenticity together. And here we are. We've come to the end of this journey together. Together, we've lived stories that weren't published in the headlines, but whispered with courage. Stories of stars who quietly embraced their truth, and in doing so, lit the way for countless others. Their power lay not just in their fame, but in their sincerity, their willingness to be true to themselves. If these stories touched you, don't stop here. Share this video, help these voices spread further. And if you want to continue exploring powerful journeys like this, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss what's next. Because sometimes the quietest stories leave the biggest impact.